How's it going? Welcome back to Dylan Pickups. So one of the things that's been coming up on the internet a lot lately is should I put a Bigsby on my guitar? And the overwhelming response a lot of times is, oh, you're totally going to ruin it. The thing's going to go out of tune all the time, blah, blah, blah. That's just not true if the setup is good. So let's talk about that and how you can have a Bigsby on a guitar and keep it in tune. And actually, keep your guitar in tune all the time, whether you have a Bigsby or not, and keep a guitar in tune no matter what kind of tremolo you have on it. There's a lot of guys playing tremolos in the world, and they stay in tune just fine. Number one, when you have a tuning issue with a guitar, it's usually not just because there's a tremolo. Anytime we take a note away from pitch and then let it return to pitch, and it doesn't go back all the way to pitch, like if we bend a string with our finger, or if we hold it as a vibrato, shake it as a vibrato, or if we use a Bigsby, or if we use a tremolo of another type, and we take it away from its original place, and when we let it go, it doesn't return to its original pitch, that is a tuning issue, right? It doesn't stay in tune. It's not that the whole guitar doesn't stay in tune usually. It's usually because one or two strings do not return to their original position. Because you have to remember that when we bend a note, even with our finger, we are moving the string, okay? And what a lot of people don't realize is we are not just moving the string within its tonal area. And a lot of people kind of forget this, that the tonal area from the saddle to the nut is one thing. But the tension area goes from anchor point, which is the eye of the string, or like on a Floyd, wherever it's locked, the eye of the string all the way to the tuning key, or a locking nut if there's a locking nut. Wherever it is locked to the guitar, that string will move between those two entire points. So all the way around here, under here, over to here, from the nut all the way underneath a string tree if there is one, all the way to around how many wraps around the tuning key there are, that all moves when you bend it, okay? And it only moves a little, but all it takes is a little, okay? So, when you move your string, no matter how you're moving it, whether you're strumming it, whether you're bending it, whether you're using a tremolo to move it, you're taking it away from its original pitch. And the idea is when you let go of everything for it to return to pitch, okay? So if I go like this and I go down, it should return to pitch. And it did. Why? Because, well, let's talk about why it does not. If it does not return to pitch, it is because something is preventing it from returning to pitch, pulling you out of tune. Most of the time it's not all 6 strings, usually it's 1 or 2. So, understanding that we're moving the entire string from anchor point to anchor point, number 1. And then number 2, isolating what string is out of tune. And a lot of people are like, oh, my guitar's out of tune. But stop and patiently go through the thing and say, all right, well, the E is in, the A is in, the D is out a little, whatever. Go through the whole thing and decide which strings are out of tune, okay? Then, systematically look at each string that is out of tune and figure out what is keeping it from returning to pitch. Remember that you're moving the string. Now, like on a Bigsby especially, when we move this, the way this works is it is actually sliding the string back and forth, okay? And all tremolos to some extent do this. They slide the string back and forth in the guitar. So if I slide that, so here's what happens. If I bend this down, this string is moving this direction. So what if I move all 6 strings down, I'm exaggerating here, and then I let them all go and they all return, but this one catches a little bit, it's going to be out of tune. Why does it catch? 90% of the time it's because the nut is not properly cut. There's a couple other small percentage times. One is if you have too many wraps around your string post on your tuners, and they notch into each other and they kind of like that can happen. So if you have tons of wraps around, they can actually kind of expand and contract like a coil and grab on each other, okay? That can happen. The other thing that can happen a lot of times is we have friction points in our bridge. This is a roller bridge, so I'm kind of cheating. But certain styles of bridges, like on a Telecaster, where if you have like a 3-barrel bridge and it's compensated and it's got that edge, sometimes they'll catch on there. So that's the one time where compensated bridges, in my opinion, don't really work, is if you use them with a Bigsby, because they don't they notch, and they don't let the string return to pitch. The other thing that can happen with a Tele bridge is if you use a 3-barrel bridge and it's smooth. I have one over here that's titanium and it's smooth. Sometimes as the pressure on the string, on the tension on the string lessens as you loosen it, you know, as you bend the bar down, sometimes the string can walk from side to side like this. So you may have to take a file and just run a very small groove just so that the string stays where it's supposed to, because sometimes it will walk back and forth and then you let go and it's kind of not where it's supposed to be and it won't be in tune. So you can actually give it a little groove to run back and forth in, just make sure it's smooth and it doesn't have any burrs and it doesn't catch anything. The other thing that can happen is, because we all sweat and, you know, we cause to different extents. I'm not a big sweater, so I don't have a lot of corrosion problems here, but I know a lot of guys, and I've worked on a lot of guys' guitars where this stuff is just so bound up you can't even, I mean, it's all rusty at, you know, 6 months worth of playing. Or down here underneath this bar or around back here, because you sweat so much, there's just junk in there, and it causes that to happen. The other thing too is change your strings. I know a lot of guys are like, well, I leave my strings on for however long, blah, 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 like 6 months or whatever. But you remember too that the way a string works, when you bend it, those coils are gonna kind of like separate and come back together and separate and come back together every time you play, every time you bend. Those coils that go especially around the wound ones, and there's junk in there from your fingers. And that junk is going to change the length of the string, if you can believe that. Not change the length really, but change its ability to return to pitch. So, I mean, that's on like a microscopic level, but you know, it is over the whole length of the guitar. So when we're talking about moving this string this much and it's out of tune to where you can notice it, all that stuff matters. And it seems kind of overwhelming, but like I said, go back to the beginning. Isolate what strings are out of tune, because not all 6 of them are usually out of tune. Figure out what is causing them to not return to their original physical location, whether it be the nut, the saddles, or some other friction point. Usually it's friction here in the tremolo. If you can do that, chances are your guitar will stay in tune far better, and probably better than it did before you put the tremolo on there, actually, because this stuff will all be freed up. And a lot of times you can just take it like this and go like this and it'll return to tune. Sometimes if you know, you can't really dive bomb a Bigsby, but if you go like this and then go back through, so maybe this one's a little sharp. See, now it's back in tune. So remember that too. Not just because you use the thing doesn't mean it's gonna go totally out of tune. All you're trying to do is get it to return to pitch, and just doing that will do that also. If you can do this, if it goes out of tune and you can go like this and it returns to pitch, half the battle's won, man. You're on it. So anyway, this is how you keep a Bigsby rolling, or any kind of tremolo, or actually your guitar in general. All these friction points can help you to keep your guitar in tune. So don't hate on a Bigsby, try it, or any tremolo really, or don't hate on keeping your guitar in tune in general. My name is Dylan, this is Dylan Pickups. Check us out all over the internets at Dylan Pickups, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, all those places at Dylan Pickups, and I hope you have a great day.